AA, see you in church. Hi, I'm Manuel. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Put the little hand up and write a message letting me know what you think of the conversation and leave suggestions. Well, it's story time, story time. I don't know if I wanted to tell this story. It was a strange one, and I looked at my mom, and my mom just smiled. And years later, we talked about it, and she had her own story, which I've already told. But anyway, mm, I guess I will. We had a new lady join the group. She goes sit down, and she had three sons. And she sat down, and she was older. Their sons were grown. We didn't really see them much. But when they did show up, they seemed to show up all together, the whole group of family. So I told my mom I was guessing that was a birthday or something. Anyway, she said she lived near a lake with her family. It wasn't really near the lake. She said there was a lake there, and that's where they spent most of their time, but they lived up the hill. And I told my mom that reminded me of how she described where she lived. And she was like, well, yeah, it was a lot like it. Except for, I never remember my mom talking about woods or anything like that. And this lady said, but there was a wooded area that the kids were not to go into. And she explained why. She said that several children had disappeared and nobody knew where they had gone. One day, the kids went in and never came out. And the only reason they knew where the kids had gone was because the mother of the children saw them playing and they went into the woods. And they were like, oh no, you know, the parents weren't. They had never thought about anything, but the neighbors were. And they had like a secret. So one day she said that she was really young then. Her mother and her were going into the woods because there was a house there and they knew the people there or whatever. And they were going into the woods to bring them something. She said she wasn't too sure about what it was for, but she found out later. And so they had baskets, and there they go with their baskets over there. And her mother had already gone before. So this was returning what they had made for that whoever they were taking it to. So they went into the woods. They found the house. It was an um, old house. She said it didn't look raggedy. It looked like it was nice. It's just that the shape of the home was a little worn. It had like a chair swing around there, and that was not being used. You could see it was rotted and all that stuff. So it was there for a while. It's just the house itself looked like it was kept up. So they knocked and knocked on the door, and um, the lady came out, and the lady said, "So you made it?" And she goes, "Yeah." You, she goes, "You asked and you paid for it, so why wouldn't I make it?" And gave her a look like, and she goes, "Well, the people here don't seem to like me." She goes, "Well, that has nothing to do with us. You came, you asked us to make you something, we make it." So she handed her what she had, the baskets, and the lady took the baskets in, and she came out, and she offered her things, and she said her mother said, "Oh, no, no, you paid. There's the items," and they walked away. She said, and they went and got into their home because she told her daughter not to say anything until we had dropped off the items and gotten back into our own homes. Until then, don't say one thing. So they got home, and she goes over and she says, "Why didn't we take the other things?" She said to her daughter, um, "I'd rather not owe nothing." She paid, we gave her exactly what we promised, and that's it. That's the way you should deal with business. And she told her that, and she goes, "Okay." So they just went on their way, and she went back to playing and whatever. And this strange little girl joined them. They were looking, and she looked at her, and she was like, "Okay." And she says to her, "Why weren't you with all the other children playing?" And she told him, "Oh, my mother and I had to deliver some products she made for them." She goes, "To who?" And she goes over, "Oh, I don't know. We went in, we gave her the items, then we came home, and now I can play." She needed help. And she said it bothered her because the person kept pressing her, trying to find out something that wasn't their business. That's how she saw it. And she finally told her, "I told you what had happened. We went, we delivered what the person paid for, and then we went home." "Oh, okay," she told her. And they all started to play again. And the little girl says, "Oh, I love to go play in the woods." And all the children were like, "Oh, yeah." And I said, "Oh, okay, well, I'm going home." And all the kids turned and looked at her and said, "Well, we're going to go play." And she goes, "Uh-uh. I've been told not to enter those woods without a grown up. And I've never even entered them with them until I went with my mom. I'm not going into those woods." Everybody kept giving her a weird look. She goes, "Well, I'll see you later." And she took off, went home. Well, there were six of the kids were still left there. She made seven, and the new girl made eight. So it wasn't even so they could play. But with her leaving, there was an odd man out. And her best friend changed her mind and she left too, but she didn't tell anybody. She just ran behind her, following her home. And her friend came in and she said, why didn't you want to go play? And she goes, well, were the other ones out there? She goes, oh no, they went. I just came because I thought, maybe you knew something that I didn't know. She goes, didn't that new girl just sort of creep you out? She goes, I don't know. I didn't really think about it. She goes, yeah. Where did she come from? Who is she? I don't know. It just didn't feel right. And then that her best friend says, I don't know. What do you think's going on? She goes, I don't know. I'm sort of scared. She goes, I went with my mom. We dropped off something that this person told us to make, and we left. And she says, I don't know. What did you guys make? She goes, I don't know. My mom, she made it at a certain time of night. She would do the sewing. She would do all her stuff, and then at night she sewed. She goes, but she doesn't usually do that. She goes, I know. It was just strange. And then we took whatever in two big baskets over to the people. But the thing is I never seen those baskets before. And we left the baskets. Usually we take the things out and my mom shows them how they look and whatever, and then she leaves. This time she just left the baskets. The lady took them in and she said thank you, and we left. We left fast. She goes, mother was practically dragging me home. So they were uncomfortable with what was they were talking. The mom came in and she goes, what's going on? She goes, I don't know, Mom. I just came in. My best friend. We were playing with the kids. A new kid was with us. And then the new kid said, let's go play in the woods and play hide and seek and stuff like that. And I don't know. I just didn't feel right. And I came home. She goes, well, I didn't know what was going on, so I came to see if she was okay. And her mother said, what does she look like? And she told her she had blonde, curly hair. She was wearing a really sort of fancy dress. And we went into the woods. She says, they were like, let's go into the woods, let's go into the woods. And I walked 2 steps and then I said, no, I'm going home. And I went home and the others went to the woods. The mother said, well, it's good that you listened to what I said. Never go into the woods by yourself. You're not supposed to go even with people. But, when I need help, you have to come and help me. So she was sort of, I know, Mom. And she goes, but anyway, you were right to come home. She goes, something doesn't sound right. I don't know what it is, but it just don't sound right. So they stayed in the house and she showed the other girl how to sew. She took out a needle and gave one each needle and some fabric. And she had already cut some stuff, so they sat down and she showed them how to sew it. And they both had a doll, and the clothes fit the doll. She were like so happy. Both were. She said, I was so happy. The dress color was my color, the color I loved, my favorite green. And my friend's color was pink, and she loved pink. And I turned to my mom and I said, where'd you get the pink fabric? She says, I was painting something red and a piece of fabric stayed pink. So I cut it and I made the little outfit for your friend's doll. All now you have to do is sew it, and I'll teach you how to sew. That way, when you grow up, you'll have ways to mend stuff, and this is one way to, it's fun. So they were there, they did it, and they had their outfits, and they played. They had so much fun. And her best friend, um, his mother came to the house and was talking to her, and she saw her daughter was there, and she was so relieved. And then her mother said, well, what's going on? She says, well, the children have all disappeared. She goes, so I came over here to see if your daughter knew where they were at, or if your daughter was here. I was hoping she would be here, but here's my daughter, so I'm relieved. And she goes, oh, she says, I spoke to them and they said that the new little girl joined them and they all wanted to go play in the woods, but my daughter won't go to the woods unless I'm with her, and we're just delivering something and we get out. And she said to her, what do you mean all the children are gone? She goes, they haven't come home. It's late already. She goes, well, we were sewing, so the time went fast. And she goes and says, well, I don't know what to say. She goes, everything seems fine here. But they went into the woods, and the little girl, she goes, and I stood up and I said, we were at the so-and-so side of the lake on the north. And they went west from the north part. They went west into the lake. I mean, into the woods. She goes, oh, they went through there. I said, she goes, yeah. So she goes over and they wanted her to go with them. And the mother said, no. And I'm not letting you take your daughter into those woods either. Her daughter was like surprised. And she goes, oh, no. She goes, we just want them to point. She goes, yeah, but it ends up, hurry, hurry. And they hold the hand of the child to take them into those woods. I wouldn't go myself even into those woods unless I have to. I don't have to. I'm not going to the woods, and you can leave your daughter here with me and you guys go, because they didn't go with them. They saw where they were going in, and it was straight from the North Peak, and then they went west into the woods. So you make your decision. You go, don't go, but go tell them where to go and find them. She says, but I will tell you this. And she gave her a little paper and a thing. Go this location, you may find the children. You may not. But work your way towards that. And she handed it to her. And she said, good luck. She goes, are you going to go straight home or are you going straight to the... She goes, I'm going to go straight home. Okay, well, there's, take your daughter. She goes, so she goes, we stayed home. The drama went on. And she goes, I saw the kids all come home except for two. Two were missing. And she wasn't talking about the little girl. They kept asking and asking and asking the children, where were the two? She goes, I went over and I sat down And one of the girls that had gone with the others said, "Why aren't you asking us?" She goes, "Because it's not my business. If you want to help your friends out, you go tell those people there. But I didn't go. I have nothing to do with what's going on. You did go. You know what happened, or might know what happened. I don't know. But I'm not going to be part of that." And she goes over, she said, and that girl told her, she said, "The little girl turned into a big old woman, and we were trapped." And she grabbed two of the kids, and we were like, didn't know what to do, where to go. So then, a while later, our parents broke into this house where we were at. And then we walked home. But we didn't walk that far. But we didn't know where the other two had gone, where she took them. So they went over and they hadn't told. So she went over and she told her mom, who went and told them. So the sheriff, because I think they had a sheriff, she said, with help, they went and waited at her house, waited for her to show up. And they were told the whole storyline. And whether you believe it or not, she said, this is what happened. And she told them what the little girl told them. So they waited. And then a child stood up next to them and said, "What are you looking for?" This is what they heard as hearsay. And the man said, "You." And he grabbed her. They both did. The deputy and the sheriff grabbed her, and they put handcuffs between them, holding the child between. And the child just started to scream and started changing. And they did not, it scared them, but they said they didn't let go of her. And she got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. But with them pulling and the other people pulling them, she couldn't use her hands to harm them. She clawed and did what she tried to, but she couldn't. And they said to her, "You either tell us where those children are, or we will kill you." And the lady said, "You can't kill me. You're the law." They said, "Oh, nobody here will tell." So she told them where they could go get the two children. They ran really quick, and there was a cave there. They found the cave. They found the children there. They grabbed the children. They took them home. And the parents were happy, but rumor has it those two children were never the same. They acted different. They had more of a meanness, which they were really nice before. And I always thought they weren't them. They were something else. But who knows? But every once in a while, something would go around their house growling and screaming. And we didn't open the doors. My mom had put well, grandmother put protection around the house. That's what she said. And she says, and after that, when it was going to get dark, everybody would go in and nobody would go out, because there would be a circle where they could walk, they could go in, and they could be outside if they wanted to, but nobody wanted to anymore. But anyway, to me, I thought that was sort of interesting, different. But could that be true? I don't know. I've heard stories like that before. I've read books that had stories similar to that before, but I never thought they would be true. And here comes somebody telling a story similar that I had read in little books with no pictures that I took home, and we sat down and we read, and they had little different stories in them. And they were sort of scary. But this one, it was just sort of strange. I was like, this is strange. I don't know. What do you think? Why don't you tell me after you subscribe to my channel? Put the hand up and say you like the story. And leave a message. Tell me, what do you think? Have you heard of stories like that? I've read of stories like that, and a lot of the things the ladies talked about were similar to that. While the areas they described sounded like the same area, like they were neighbors to each other, and they all just came to that one area where we were at, just like they were before. But I don't know. Even where my mom came from was sort of a description of that kind of an area, except for there was no woods that I remember her talk about. But you can also leave a something you'd like to talk about in something later that I talk about, like I always do. But remember, AA, see you in church.